If you're homeless and you're in Irvine, and you get lucky, you wind up in a place like this. Behind these gates is the Orange County Rescue Mission. Is there an economic crisis and a homelessness or marginally homeless population in Irvine that most of us don't see every day?
I would say there is. I think, especially with Irvine being as clean and as pristine and beautiful as it is, it's easy to miss what's going on there as far as people in crisis, people in need. There's a large amount of homeless in and around the area of Irvine, and whether it's there are homeless camps, for example, in Irvine. There's probably a few hidden around, but most of it is people who are struggling, who are about to lose their house or their apartment, and have been off and on homeless for all their lives.
As a former resident of Irvine, I was actually living with my mother, and then I moved out. I had an okay job, but my main thing was depression. I was really battling with depression, and just not wanting to get up and go to work, and just feeling worthless, which ultimately led to me losing my job. And so I lost my apartment and car and everything like that, and I ended up staying with my grandma off and on. Grandma and mom friends, just bouncing back
in
and
Irvine?
Forth. My grandma actually lived in Fullerton. My mom still lived in Irvine, so bouncing back and forth. And so my grandma passed away, and that just really, led into a downward spiral depression where I couldn't even function. I was put into psychiatric hospitals and things like that. And so my mom actually works for the County of Orange, and she heard about this place and she referred me.
Did it surprise you to wind up on the other side of the economic scale?
Yeah, I remember I used to see homeless people driving by, and I was like, how do they become homeless? And do they not have family? And a lot of people have the misconception that homeless people are on drugs or they're alcoholics, and it's not like that. It's tough out there nowadays, You see a lot more families here. You see a lot more single people here that are just having a hard time because of the economic crisis that we're going through.
You have an 8-year-old, you have a 5-year-old, and you have a 2-year-old with a mother, and you're full. What are you going to say to her? Well, here's a referral.
So
well,
what
you
did
can
you
go
say
over
to
here.
her?
We can only refer her out to maybe a cold weather shelter. And you know that for that night, because of what you said, and you are looking in the faces of these children who have no idea what's going on except that they're hungry, and you can tell that they're going to go without. And that's one of the most frustrating things you could ever have, and one of the most sad things you can see. And it doesn't happen just on this one incident. It happens every day with many service providers here in Orange County. And it breaks your heart. Because these are our neighbors. Maybe your next door neighbor got evicted. And this is what we see on the front line.
It can be someone who's struggled with homelessness off and on their whole lives, starting from when they were children, and they sort of got into that cycle from their parents, and it's just a matter of poor education or lack of a safety net, a lack of support in the community, not really plugging into the resources that are there. All it takes is something like one bad set of hospital bills or medical bills, and someone's completely overwhelmed and completely at a loss for what they can do. And debt in particular just becomes something that is just a number. They can't do anything about it, so it just keeps growing and growing until they have terrible credit. They can't take out an apartment, they can't buy a car or anything like that, and so they're sort of left with no resources. You add any kind of other issue on top of that, whether it's substance abuse, domestic violence, lack of education, like I said, that's just a done deal. It's going to be a hard thing to recover from.
So if it hadn't been for the Orange County Rescue Mission, what do you imagine would have happened if there hadn't been support or a shelter to go to?
Oh my gosh, I would just be lost. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know where I'd be right now. You know, without that stability, and I have no idea. I'm just thankful, you know, that I ended up here.